how like it was all really teal before, and then I washed it today, so it's like turning into a little bit of a green, but I love it. I fucking love this hair color. Hey guys, I am going to be telling you guys a story today about almost being abducted. It is a story I read off of Reddit, and let me tell you, this story literally had me like, what the fuck is gonna happen next? I was on the edge of my bed, literally. I was in my bed and I was like on the edge of it. I was like, what's gonna happen? So yeah, the author of the story is the TH3W0LF57. So I'm just reading your story. You did an amazing job. So I'm reading it off of my iPad. And so if you guys would like to read along, I will link the story time down below for you guys to do that if you guys would like to. Otherwise, some people just listen to the audio of this. I listen to a lot of audio story times when I'm driving, so sometimes, yeah, I don't know where I was trying to go with that, but yeah. So just as some background, I'm a male and currently still living within 15 miles of my old house. This happened when I was about 8 or 9, making my sister at the time of 5 or 6. We lived in a quiet neighborhood that, once I grew up, I found out was actually a lower income part of town. However, we had some wonderful neighbors, and it was thanks to these neighbors that a lot of potentially negative situations were avoided. At the time, my dad was working an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. job, and my mother was a secretary at a hospital, which meant that during the day she was often at work. Usually my sister and I had a babysitter. But once I reached about 8 or 9, I began to be old enough to look out for us without a babysitter. Now mind you, this was the 90s, which certainly were not safe, but much more safer than they are now. Also, we had the previously mentioned neighbors who generally did a good job of keeping an eye on us and our house. This particular incident was one of the first times I was in charge to babysit my sister. She was in her high chair, eating whatever my mom had left for us, when I got a knock on the door. Now this was strange since we never got visitors on a regular basis, other than the boy across the street who would want us to come out and play, but he usually just yelled my name while knocking. I was young and naive and decided to open the door. There was a locked screen door behind that, and I left that closed and locked. Outside was a middle-aged man. I hardly remember his facial features, or even body type. I remembered his yellow shirt and dirty jeans.
Can I help you?
I innocently asked, no alarm bells going off yet.
Hey there, are your parents home?
Alright, first alarm bell. My parents teaching me not to trust strangers rushed through my head, but I still didn't quite fully grasp the potential danger here.
My mom went to the store, but she'll be back any minute.
Weird half lie. I could have said she was there but in the shower, or that she was laying downstairs. I'm glad I didn't tell him that she wouldn't be back for a few hours, but not looking back on how scary and how naive I was.
Well, that's no problem. Hey, look, so my dog went missing and I think it went into your backyard. Do you mind if I come in and we go check out back?
Okay, so I may have been dumb, but I wasn't that dumb. There was no way in hell I was letting this stranger into my house, especially with my sister here. She was my first thought. Sure, I didn't want to have any harm fall on me, but she was my sister and it was my job to keep her safe. I should have closed the door right then and there, but once again, I went with a less safe option, but totally not the stupid route.
Well, the gate should be unlocked. If you want to go check the backyard, you can.
And promptly closed the door. Now, of course, I was very curious if there was a stray dog in my backyard. So I decided to go check the back window and see if there was an actual dog there. If so, the man would catch it. Now at this point, I am sure you figured out that there was no dog. And when I looked out the back window, I could see almost the entire yard, including the gate. The man wasn't there. This was mere seconds after I closed the door on him. I waited for a few minutes, but he never showed up. After about 5 minutes, there was another knock on my door. This time, I was much more wary and I didn't like this guy showing up. I was pretty tired of the whole ordeal, but I still hadn't fully grasped the situation. I kept the chain lock on the door and cracked it open.
Did you find your dog?
Again, I can't remember his facial features, so I really cannot recall his expression, but I remember his tone was a bit desperate as well as annoyed.
No, I looked all over the yard and I couldn't find him. I have a picture in my car if you just want to take it in just in case you see him.
Nope. no more. I still didn't understand abduction, but I certainly wasn't going to go anywhere outside of the house with this stranger. I told him that he can leave the picture in the mailbox and we will keep an eye out. Once again, promptly closing the door. What followed is what really creeps me out to this day. Looking back, I was freaked out and that I had come this close to exposing my sister and myself to danger, but this scared the shit out of me. Suddenly, there was more knocking at my door. Not the screen door separating the door itself. Like I mentioned previously, the screen door was locked, and unless that was open, it was impossible to knock on the door itself. It freaked me the fuck out, and I took my sister to the bedroom and crept back to the kitchen, where I could see out onto the front yard, and saw the man quickly getting back into his car while my saint of a next door neighbor, Joan, stood on her front lawn smoking and watching him intently. It took a long time for me to add it all up, and honestly, I had forgotten about it for a long time. When I finally remembered it all, I couldn't even believe my own memories. I'm still debating with myself to actually tell my parents now. I wouldn't want to unnecessarily upset them, but maybe it's an important story to tell my two younger sisters, one of whom is getting married soon, just as a life lesson. If anyone has any advice, I would love to hear it. Either way, Mr. Yellow Shirt Man, yeah, let's not ever meet again. Also, thank you, Joan, whoever you are. You saved me on multiple occasions and I didn't even know it. I forgot to mention this. It turns out he had ripped a corner of the screen door and had unlocked the screen door that way. My dad later just thought it was a wear and tear or us kids being kids. But yeah, I forgot to mention that portion. Pretty creepy looking back on it. When I read that for the first time, I got goosebumps. Like, oh, I have goosebumps. I remember being a little kid and having to watch, during my childhood personally, my babysitter, she just lived next door, so she would always just come over. But when I got to the age, so myself, I'm the oldest of four, and the youngest, we are 8 years apart. So since there was so many kids of us, there's 4 kids, it wasn't until I was a little bit older that my parents felt comfortable with me babysitting them. Otherwise, we always just had a babysitter. But I remember when my mom would leave and go for errands and a doorbell would ring, it was really creepy because we were always told never to answer the door, and sometimes there'd be creepy men just in the neighborhood. Sometimes, very rarely was that, but it was more door-to-door selling. And we have one of those posters on like no loitering, but sometimes that just wouldn't even stop them. And I remember that there was this really creepy guy in my neighborhood once, and this just happened not too long ago, like years ago, but like no more than 5 years, and I'm 24. So when I was 19, I remember that I saw this really strange man walking my neighborhood, and it just brought back all these memories of like back when I was young. Nothing near as like this, but like I remember, I have goosebumps. The house that we live in, it's not haunted, but I feel like there's spirits there. And not saying this has anything to do with spirits, but I remember, I swear I heard, we got home from this is so off topic, but I remember getting home from the movies once, and I was the first one. I heard someone in my family room saying, "Who's there?" in this loud voice, and I swear it was 2 men, and I've never heard that voice ever again in my house. But that was when I was like 14, and maybe even a little bit younger than 14, but it really just scared the shit out of me. So I can't imagine what this person went through by going through that. But that was an amazing story. So thank you so much for writing it, and I hope you guys enjoyed me storytelling. Thank you guys for tuning in to my story time, and yeah, I hope you have a very blessed and soulful day, and I will see you guys next time.